Welcome to this month's CAN TV program with the Gay Liberation Network. I'm Andy Thayer, your host, and with us tonight is Laurel Lambert-Schmidt of the Green Party. And we're going to be talking, as the screen said, about the upcoming 10th anniversary of the Afghanistan War, America's longest war. And Laurel has been a Green Party candidate for Congress, and it was the 3rd district?
Third congressional district.
3rd congressional district. And before we go any further, I should stress that not only is CAN TV, but also the Gay Liberation Network, we are a nonpartisan organization. We do not endorse candidates. Laurel can certainly have her say here, as any number of other candidates from other parties do, but we are nonpartisan. But we're going to be talking about basically electoral challenges to the status quo, specifically with regard to the Afghanistan War. We've got a serious situation here where basically tons and tons of money are being plowed into this war. According to recent stats, we have spent, the American taxpayer has anyway, has nearly doubled our military spending since 9/11. The federal budget, some 67% of the federal budget goes to pay for current and past wars. What do you think about that all, Laurel?
Well, as a matter of fact, the U.S. spends more on its military budget than all other industrial nations combined. It's just insane, and the money we're spending in Afghanistan is legion. We're now spending at twice the rate we are in Iraq, and full military spending, I think, is about $1.2 trillion on those wars alone, and that doesn't count the legacy of war. In other words, I think we have so many GIs come back with wounds that for which they will need lifetime care, and it's estimated that it would cost $3 trillion to take care of the human lives we have, just the U.S. human lives,
let alone the Afghanis.
Yeah. If we choose to do the honorable thing and give them the care that's needed.
Well, and I think as the Vietnam and the Iraq War has shown, the first U.S. Gulf War, that's something that the United States has singularly failed to do over and over again. So why should we believe them this time when the pro-war patriots say that they're going to honor American service, so-called, in terms of taking care of these veterans? I mean, the veterans of past wars make up a huge proportion of the homeless population. Very few of them are actually able to access the education benefits that are promised to them upon enlistment. So I think it's important to note just what an utter failure.
And there are no jobs left for returning veterans or for so many of the young people and homeowners, working people, formerly working people across this country. And that's part of the problem of a military budget. And right now I'd like to segue into the problems of the current administration. Barack Obama was elected back in 2008 on and everybody thought him wildly attractive. Not everybody, but many people thought him wildly attractive and a darling of the liberals, and our first African American serious candidate. But he came in speaking straight talk on Afghanistan, and no one cared to listen.
Well, some of us did, but we weren't heard very well.
That's true.
And I think it's important to note that he was telling the truth in that respect, but of course he's, shall we say, told falsehoods about when the hell he was going to get out of Afghanistan, when he was going to get out of Iraq. In fact, there was a story just the other day that the Obama administration is negotiating with the Karzai government to keep troops in Afghanistan at least through 2024, basically permanent bases, and that's at a minimum 2024.
And that's after his June speech, in which he stated that the troops would be gone by 2014, and that the entire surge would be gone by next year. And I just saw the BBC documentary that talked about in England, they want to, in the UK, they want to get their troops out by 2015. And there will be absolutely nothing changed at that time. It's a morass. The central government is not coping well.
Well, it was as adequately demonstrated, I think, beyond anyone's to everyone's satisfaction, that frankly the Karzai government stole the one election that it ran in, and yet the world powers and NATO and so forth certified it anyway. But before we continue our conversation, I wanted to make a few announcements about upcoming things and how you can get in contact with us. We are, of course, the Gay Liberation Network, and you can find out more about the Gay Liberation Network and our various activities and find out the details on those by simply going to our website, www.gayliberation.net. And one of the things that we've got coming up is a forum on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. 9/11 in the Afghanistan War. Who was right? What can we do? We're going to be having Mary Dean of Voices for Creative Nonviolence, who just returned from Afghanistan, a month-long visit to Afghanistan, meeting with pro-peace groups within Afghanistan. That is going to be at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, September 10th at the Merlot Public Library on Belmont between Broadway and Halsted. And also, what we're going to be building up for is the 10th anniversary of the Afghanistan invasion, which is going to be a demonstration starting at downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue, and Congress Parkway at 12 noon on Saturday, October 8th. This is going to be a march, and not just around the loop. We're going to talk about. We are going to be marching on the Obama 2012 National Campaign headquarters located on Randolph Street. This is a message to the Obama administration that some of us are sick and tired of this war going on and on and on. And frankly, we're also sick and tired of the fact that the war has been dramatically escalated to places like Pakistan, Somalia, Yemen, and so many other countries. But Laurel, again, getting back to, you're a Green Party member, you're a Green Party candidate in the past for the 3rd congressional seat. What do you see the role of the electoral struggle in terms of bringing about an end to these wars?
Well, I think too many people have put their faith in the Democratic Party. They felt that in the past a vote for Barack Obama or a vote for John Kerry or going back was a vote for peace. I went and hit the campaign trail for Kerry back in 2004. I worked very hard, and then I saw that my efforts were kind of, thrown to the wind, that they were used by the Democratic Party with the help of various unions who work very closely with them, and it didn't really pave any way ahead. Bush won the election by a very small amount. It was in dispute, and nothing was gained.
Well, Kerry threw in the towel. He
did, just like Al Gore had thrown in the towel before. And was it stolen? Was it on the level? I don't know. But all I know is that
Democrats have stolen their fair share of elections too.
We know that well in Chicago. But when Barack Obama came to office, everyone thought, oh, hope and change. We're not going to have peace. And what he has done is, with a more attractive face, he's a good-looking guy. He has a lovely family.
He doesn't come off as arrogant.
Or ignorant, as the man before him. But we see him misusing power, just like George Bush did, such as when the U.S. decided to bomb Libya. I'm not saying I'm a Gaddafi fan, but it was a civil war.
Well, he went against, and probably a lot of people miss this, he went against the explicit legal advice of not only the top legal counsel in the Pentagon, but also the State Department, in saying he didn't need congressional authorization to go past the 60 days as designated by the War Powers Act, an act that was inaugurated to go against Richard Nixon's illegal war making back in the day. And that was, to my mind, just the height of arrogance, something that frankly superseded some of the things that George W. Bush did. The wars in Afghanistan have in the south and to the east of there have been dramatically escalated. He explicitly supported any number of Israeli attacks on the Palestinians. We have, I think, a wolf in sheep's clothing, in that when you've got a wolf saying that he's a wolf, you can pretty much get away with much less. I mean, there's the old phrase that only Nixon can go to China, and I think that's what we've seen with the civil liberties attacks by the Obama administration. He's actually been able to pull off a lot of things that George W. Bush only dreamed of, in terms of the FBI raids on anti-war and international solidarity activists, using a horrible June 2010 Supreme Court ruling that basically said simply talking to groups in other countries constituted aiding and abetting terrorism if they were designated by the State Department to be terrorist organizations, which the irony, of course, with that is that Barack Obama, who was at least tangentially involved in the anti-apartheid movement back in the day, an organization known as the African American National Congress, was considered a terrorist organization by the Reagan administration and so forth back then. Under the Supreme Court ruling.
Well, the problem as I see it is that the Democrats complain about the excesses and abuses of power by Republicans, but when they get into office, they continue on the same manner. As a Green Party, a former Green Party candidate and Green Party member, I understand it's really important to stand for the good things that we can expect society to produce. We have lots of know-how, we have lots of wealth, but it's if it's not concentrated in a few hands, if it's not given to politicians, we favor public financing of elections. We don't take money from corporations. I think you'll find a little different outcome from your elections.
Well, and I find it very interesting that in spite of not taking the corporate money, you were telling me before the show, Laurel, that back when you last ran for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District, you had a budget of $250, and yet you won, 6% of the vote?
Yes, I got over 10,000 votes, and the cost per vote was really minuscule when you compared it to any district where big money people are trying to influence the outcome.
And the 3rd Congressional District, just so that our viewers know, that's like the far west side of Chicago into Oak Park and Riverdale.
I would like to give a shout out to Garfield Ridge, to Clearing, to Beverly, and also in the suburbs. I live in Riverside, and I used to be in the 3rd Congressional District.
Okay,
but
they
all of us,
you out.
They've redistricted the Democrats concocted a new map for electoral districts in the state of Illinois after the census, and coincidentally, my house is now 4 blocks from the end of the
3rd Congressional District.
The 3rd Congressional District, and So if I ran again, I would have to run as a non-resident.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop Dan Lipinski when he first ran.
Right.
In the third, everyone knows that Bill Lipinski was an alderman who rose to power under both Daleys, and then all of a sudden in 2004, after the primary, he decided he was going to withdraw, and all of a sudden, Bill Lipinski was replaced by Dan Lipinski. And Dan Lipinski happened to be living in Tennessee at the time. He was a professor at Vanderbilt.
Right.
And so it didn't stop him not being a resident. But with laws of inheritance, Chicago style.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that the Democrats considered you and the Green Party enough of a threat that they would pull such a stunt. But I'd like to talk a little bit more generally about the role of the Green Party, because we've seen this in gay politics, and this is something that probably a lot of our viewers, including those who consider themselves gay activists, may not know, is that the current wave of pro-marriage activism was in many respects seemingly due to San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom basically instituting and inaugurating marriages for same-sex couples in San Francisco. But what a lot of people don't know is that just a few months earlier, the Democratic Party and candidate Gavin Newsom got the scare of their life running for that mayor's office when the Green Party candidate, I believe it was Peter Camejo, got something like 46 or 48% of the vote. And it actually forced the Democratic Party in that one area dramatically to the left, where you had Gavin Newsom basically bucking the National Democratic Party to say, I'm going to be for gay marriage because I need to steal the thunder of this Green Party mayoral candidate who just gave our party out here in San Francisco the scare of its life. I mean, the Green Party went from being the number 3 party to the number 2 party ahead of the Republicans in that mayoral race. That's how basically it forced the Democrats, even though the Green Party candidate didn't win, it forced the Democrats to do things locally in that jurisdiction that they didn't do otherwise. Just think of what would happen if we had much more support for third-party candidates here in Chicago rather than having a one-party system, which is what we've got.
Well, also, Green Party candidates will raise issues that Republicans and Democrats will consider taboo. There's no reason why we have to keep things as they are, especially on a federal level. And I've always been concerned with the federal level because I'm very concerned with our policies of militarism that continue to fund and to feed military contractors throughout the states.
Right. I mean, we've got...
And only the Green Party is going to talk about this consistently. Of course, we have a progressive caucus in Congress, but they get bought off every time there's a big vote.
When there's a critical, they'll do the pro forma anti-war vote when their votes are not in the balance, but the moment they're in the balance, then the entire Chicago congressional delegation will vote for war spending and so forth. But one of the things I found really disgusting about this recent debate about the federal budget, where the threatened federal shutdown was people say, oh, we've got to cut back, we've got to cut it back. And if you buy that argument for a moment, which I don't, but let's just for the sake of argument say that, yeah, we need to cut back, well, you should do as the old bank robbers do. Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Well, in the federal budget, 67% of the federal budget goes to paying for current and past wars. We have nearly doubled the military budget since 9/11. We have military bases in over 130 countries around the world, and the inhabitants of those countries, I mean, talk about an undemocratic setup. The inhabitants of those countries, for the most part, overwhelmingly do not want the troops there. A vast majority of Afghanis want the United States out. Polls show the vast majority of Americans now want the United States to pull out of Afghanistan and the other countries that we're occupying. And yet, we've got a Democratic president, Nobel Peace Prize winner, who is pushing continued occupation at least through 2024.
and a man who continually gives in to the most egregious demands of the right wing. And I wanted to build on what you mentioned about the compromise over the debt ceiling. It was no compromise, and the super committee that is now comprised of 4 legislators, each one of whom has received huge contributions from the defense or military contractors in their states since they've been put on the committee. So and they're representatives of where Boeing, Raytheon, and other big plants are. So it's no accident who we're funding.
Well, and just to bring it local here, we've got, of course, Boeing headquarters here in Chicago, and our new mayor is not just some guy they pulled off the street. He was, frankly, the hatchet man for the pro-war forces within the Democratic Party in terms of nixing more progressive candidates and pushing for war funding. There was not a war funding bill that Emanuel voted against, but anyway, we are getting down to the end of our time here, unfortunately. With me tonight has been Laurel Lambert-Schmidt of the Green Party.
And I wanted to thank you before we cut off. Thank both Andy and the Gay Liberation Network. And
well, thank you.
I've had the pleasure of being your host, and you've spoken at my forum. So
yes.
I'm pleased to be here. And I'd ask everyone to please look into the Green Party, vote Green, and check us out on the web. There's
What's the website?
ilgp.org.
Okay, there you got it. Again, this has been Andy Thayer with Laurel Lambert-Schmidt. We're going to close out the show with a few announcements here, if you'll just bear with us. Here we go. Again, we've got a forum coming up on Saturday, September 10th, 9/11 and the Afghanistan War 10 years later. That's 2:30 p.m. September 10th, the Merlot Public Library. And check out the www.chicagomassaction.org website for information about a 10th anniversary protest marching on the Obama 2012 headquarters on the 10th anniversary of Afghanistan War. We've got our next GLN meeting coming up the second Wednesday of September. That's 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 14th. You can get information about that at our website. And of course, we got our next CAN TV program coming up the second Friday in September, September 9th at the same time, same station. And then finally, we'd like to thank our people who have contributed to tonight's show.